And so I bring that up because right now you can get Dak Prescott somewhere in the 12th round, somewhere around that area. And if he finishes as the fourth rated quarterback as he did in 2023, you're getting a steal. Welcome to Just the Stats NFL, the show that covers the NFL statistical leaders from the all-time greats to the current players leading the NFL. I'm Ernie Jennings, your host. So we only have 40 days left until the beginning of the season, the first game of the season. Can't wait. So I figured it's time to look at the greatest players from a fantasy football perspective. If you're like me, you probably play in some fantasy league, more than one maybe, and you want to know a little bit about who you should be picking when it comes time for your draft. And since some people probably have already drafted plenty, but I usually wait. I really hate to have a draft too early, pick a player who then ends up getting hurt or something happens to him, and it feels wasted. And I know, obviously, anytime you pick a player, they could get hurt, but I prefer to end up doing a draft as late as I can. You get more information and so forth. But what we're going to do today is look at some players from an all-time fantasy points perspective. Just out of curiosity to look at some of these players. We'll look at the all-time best as far as fantasy points and compare that to some of the players today. So what I'm going to do is I play PPR. 1 point, and I'll give you just how this is going to look up here. I usually use 6 points per passing TD, but this is actually 4 points per passing TD. 1 point per 25 yards passing, 4 points per passing TD, minus 2 points per interception thrown, 1 point per reception, 1 point per 10 yards rushing or receiving, and then 6 points for a touchdown, 2 points for a 2-point conversion, and minus 2 yards for a fumble lost. So what I'm looking at here is I came on this on StatHead, where they listed the all-time fantasy point leaders as far as total fantasy points in a single season. And I was comparing that to some of the players in the past. So it's really interesting. If you go by that status, Lamar Jackson last year passed LaDainian Tomlinson, who had held the record since 2006 with 425.1 points. Lamar Jackson had 430.4 points, fantasy points last season in 2024. That's the most ever. Patrick Mahomes had come close twice back in 2018 and 2022. And if you're like me, you know these last few years, his numbers have dramatically dropped as far as fantasy goes. And then Lamar Jackson also has number 5, but Lamar Jackson was number 1. So very interesting. Now, when you look, though, at points per game, Marshall Faulk still in 2000. This was in 14 games now, so he didn't have as many points as he did in 2006 when he had 425, but he did have almost 379. He averaged 32.85 points per game, almost 33 points a game. That's the most ever under this setup that I'm talking about. Pretty incredible. And then Priest Holmes was second. The closest anybody's come was Christian McCaffrey in 2020, had 30.13. So he's been up there. Lamar Jackson, again, like I said, has been up there. In 2019. He had 27.71. And so those are some interesting numbers. Really, nobody from 2024, except for Lamar Jackson, had 25.32 in this format that they're showing here. So quite a bit fewer points, even though he had 430 total fantasy points under this setup. So what I wanted to do was go through the different players. They're just not players putting up the numbers like they did in the past, except for Christian McCaffrey. And all the top players, the first quarterback, like I said, all time is Lamar Jackson, who is ninth with 27.71. The rest of them are running backs. And obviously, the running backs that catch a lot of passes as well. So that's why you see Marshall Faulk, Priest Holmes, McCaffrey, and Tomlinson. They're the top 8 spots between the 4 of them. And it's pretty incredible when you look at it. Current players that have made the list are McCaffrey, Jackson, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, but way back in 2011. And then Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams. They're the only ones that make the top 31 players. So it's just interesting to see. As much as I love fantasy football, it's really interesting to see these players from the past. But what I wanted to do now was look at some of the players from 2024 and compare them and see where they stand compared to the other players in the NFL. And also try to pick out the players that I think will have a good year coming into 2025. So last season, under this format, Lamar Jackson was number 1 player with 25.32 points per game. Jamar Chase had 23.71, and obviously he had an incredible season, led the NFL in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Josh Allen was third with 22.29, followed really close by Saquon Barkley with 22.21. Now, fifth was Joe Burrow, who had 21.93. So, not too far, 0.36 behind Josh Allen. So a third of a point behind Josh Allen. And obviously the big difference is Joe Burrow's throwing for a ton of yards. He had over 4,900 yards passing, just like Jamar Chase was in receiving. Joe Burrow led the NFL in yards and touchdowns thrown. So he has to throw for a ton of yards and a lot of touchdowns to keep pace. And even then, he's not quite keeping pace with Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. And primarily the reason Lamar Jackson topped Josh Allen is he threw for over 4,000 yards, and he also had over 40 touchdowns thrown. Plus, he runs. Josh Allen's big get was that he has a lot of rushing touchdowns. That's where he got a lot of his points. And then obviously, like I said, Jamar Chase and Saquon Barkley, to make the top 5, had to rush for 2,000 yards. So you can see it's easier for a quarterback, and a player outside of a quarterback has to put up some astounding numbers to make it. When you're looking at the top players, they're primarily quarterbacks, running backs. Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, all running backs. Jamar Chase, the only wide receiver. And then you have Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Baker Mayfield had an incredible year, threw for 40-plus touchdowns and over 4,000 yards. So, again, he doesn't run a lot, but he ran for over 300 yards. So, pretty good season. Now, can he duplicate that next year? That's a good question. Jalen Hurts, obviously, he gets a lot of his points, not so much from the passing game, at least in 2024, but from rushing touchdowns and rushing yards. Jaden Daniels, incredible. First year in the NFL, comes in 9th as far as PPR season. And then like I said already, Derrick Henry. But those are the top 12 when you're looking at them. So how do they... Now let's split that up and let's look at players by position. So in 2023, this is what I wanted to do, was look at players from Let me get that. Let me get this up here real quick. Players from 2024, and look at those first. And I just want to do quarterbacks. I'm bringing this up so I can just look at the quarterbacks first. I'm looking at StatHead here. That's what I'm using. All right. So in 2024, looking at quarterbacks, like I said, Lamar Jackson was first. And let me get that. And Josh Allen was second, Joe Burrow third. So let's look at that. But what I wanted to do was compare that to 2023 because I think you'll see you have to make a decision kind of. It was an aberration, a spike for a quarterback, or is that something that is repeatable year after year? So, for example, Josh Allen had 22.29 points. The year before, he had 23.09. So he had 2 good years in a row. Lamar Jackson was up there. He was third in 2023 and first this year. Jalen Hurts in 2023 was second. This past season, he was fifth. One of the outliers, of course, is Jaden Daniels, who was a rookie, jumped right in the top 6. One of the interesting ones is Baker Mayfield, who finished fourth in 2024. But in 2023, he was 19th. So is Baker Mayfield going to repeat last year, or is he going to come maybe not as low as he was in 2023? He had 16 points a game versus 21 and a half. Big difference. Or is he going to come somewhere in between? So that's a good question. I mean, if it's me and I have a choice between him and one of these other top quarterbacks, I might pass up on Baker Mayfield and pick somebody else. So when we're looking at quarterbacks right now, Baker Mayfield is average position being drafted as 7th. He's the 7th quarterback off in the draft. I definitely might think about not picking him up and even waiting one more round and getting Bo Nix, for example. I'm not sure I want to trust Baker Mayfield to have the kind of season he had last year. And that's just me. Another one on the other way that I found interesting was Dak Prescott. This past season, now he only played 8 games, but even in the 8 games he played, he averaged 14 and a half points a game. Now, but the year before in 2023, he was 4th. He had averaged 20 points a game, a huge difference. So what I've been looking at with Dak Prescott is he going to have a season like 2024 or a season like 2023? And in my opinion, he's going to have a season closer to 2023 for a couple of reasons. One, they picked up Pickens. So now CeeDee Lamb's not out there being double teamed necessarily all the time. It just gives Dak Prescott another wide receiver of quality to throw to. They have a good tight end as well. The offensive line is going to be a little bit of a question mark, but still, they have some good wide receivers, really good. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb's one of the best. And then I think we might see something out of Pickens this season. But and then a good tight end. So I think he's going to have a season more like 2023. And one other reason is I don't know what Dallas is thinking, but 2 years in a row, they're not trying very hard, it seems to me, to find a running back of quality. So they're picking up hopeful kind of guys. And Miles Sanders, I don't think so. Blue, no. I don't expect him, at least early on, to be much. And And then Williams. Williams is a question mark. Is he over his injury or not? I don't know. And how good is he going to be anyway? So I think that Prescott's going to be passing a lot like he did in 2023. And I bet he's up more around the 20-point range. And so I bring that up because right now you can get Dak Prescott somewhere in the 12th round, somewhere around that area. And if he finishes as the 4th rated quarterback as he did in 2023, you're getting a steal if you wait that long. So as far as quarterbacks goes, that's somebody that I find really interesting. And we'll see how it goes. Another one that's of interest is not so much, I guess, C.J. Stroud. He only averaged just under 13 points a game. But in 2023, his rookie season, he averaged almost 18 and a half. Where is he going to finish? They have some good wide receivers. Nico Collins should be there for the whole season. They picked up Kirk, but I don't think they did anything to improve their offensive line. But the thing is you can pick up C.J. Stroud as late as the 17th round. So you get him that late. His average pick is the 17th. He's being picked around overall pick number 129. I should say it like that, actually. I'm sorry. And the same with Baker Mayfield. I'll go back up to him. Baker Mayfield's being picked around overall 68. Whereas you could wait one more round and get Bo Nix around pick 80 right now. That's where he's going. So you get a little bit better choice there. I think Bo Nix is going to have a season, an excellent season, because he can do everything fairly well. And if he stays within the system of his coach, I just can't believe he won't do well. I sort of wonder about replicating, and not as great as Drew Brees, but still, they're trying to run an offense that's very specific. And if Bo Nix can do it the way he's taught, I just don't know why he won't succeed. But he can also run. So that's something Drew Brees could not do. But anyway, C.J. Stroud was 9th in 2023. He was 33rd. So you can get him really cheap. And if you're in a Superflex league and you need a second quarterback, he's somebody you might think about. You can pick him up really late. And, if he turns out not so hot, you can let him go. But as far as 2024 in quarterbacks, I still think it's going to be Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And Joe Burrow is going to have another mighty season to stay up there. Now, the one interesting one is Jalen Hurts. He's been very consistent. 2023, he had 21 points a game. This past season, he had 21 points a game. He went from 2nd, though, to 5th, but he still averaged 21 points a game. And now there's talk, if you're listening to a lot of them, that there's a greater possibility he's going to be throwing the ball more. So if that's the case, and everything else stays equal, he could definitely go above 21 points a game. And right now, you can get him in somewhere 3rd, 4th round. He's overall pick 41 in a 12-team league. You can get him in the 4th round. So you might want to think about that as somebody that could be up there and not have to reach, because Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are going right away. And they're going picks number overall 21 for Josh Allen and 23 for Lamar Jackson right now. And then Jaden Daniels, the same thing. He's number 29. And then you drop down to 41 for Jalen Hurts. So those top 3 are going to go fairly quick. Obviously, Jackson and Allen are going to, in a 12-team league, are going to go in the 2nd round, and Jaden Daniels is going to go early in the 3rd round. So we'll have to watch them. So those are some of the quarterbacks. I really like Prescott. I think he's good. If you can't get one of the better ones and you want to wait if you're a person who's going to pick running backs or wide receivers first and wait on your quarterback, Dak Prescott's one you might want to sit on and wait and try to pick up. I did that last year after 2023. It was a failure. Fortunately, it also picked up Jaden Daniels, so it ended up not hurting me. But I do still think it's a good possibility this year, as long as he doesn't get hurt. But that goes without saying for anybody. All right, let's look at the wide receivers and compare some of the wide receivers. So right now, Ja'Marr Chase is the number one pick overall, regardless of what position we're talking about. And as far as wide receivers in 2024, Ja'Marr Chase had 276 fantasy points in this setup to Justin Jefferson was second, was 214, a huge difference. And when we're looking at fantasy points, Ja'Marr Chase 16 and a quarter, Justin Jefferson just over a little over 12 and a half. That's a huge difference. So obviously, in a way, if you have a setup where you're looking at tiers, I put Ja'Marr Chase in a tier by himself. He's the number one pick overall. So if you want him, the only way you're really going to get him is if you're number one, maybe number two, if somebody for some reason wants to pick somebody else. But really, that's it. But what we want to look at is comparing 2024 with 2023. And this is interesting. So like I said, Ja'Marr Chase had 16 points a game. But in 2023, he also had 16 and a half game points. But CeeDee Lamb had 23.72. Tyreek Hill had 23 and a half points a game. A huge difference. It's incredible, the difference. So despite the season Ja'Marr Chase had, really, CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill had a better season. So that's something to look at. CeeDee Lamb right now is going third wide receiver, sixth pick overall. So again, and Justin Jefferson, second wide receiver, fifth overall. You know those three are going in the first round. And Malik Nabers, which is one I would put a little bit more of a question mark on. He's going in the first round. I don't know if I'd want to pick Malik Nabers necessarily. He's going to be on a bad team, and I know he's the only wide receiver. He's going to get 170 targets, but it's just going to be hard for him. Despite all the targets he had last season, and he did have a lot of receptions, but his yardage wasn't the top rookie at all, despite all the receptions and all the targets thrown his direction. And is Russell Wilson going to be better? Is he going to get the ball down the field? I don't know. Or is he going to dump off? So we'll see. So as far as these players go, again, last season T. Higgins was fourth in as far as wide receivers go. That's an interesting one. He was in 2023. I don't even see him. So I guess he must have been hurt. But T. Higgins is another one who's been a sneaky kind of guy to keep your eye on because of the fact that Cincinnati's going to have to throw the ball a ton. Right now, their defense is questionable. As of this, I haven't heard that they signed their rookie. They haven't signed Hendrickson, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. But right now, Higgins is 13th wide receiver going 34th pick overall. So he's going in the third round. He's a sneaky one. He'll get 1,000 yards this season, I think. So he's somebody to think about. I mean, every year he's had 900. Well, in 2023, he only had 656. That's why he wasn't in 2023. But every other year he's had more than 900 yards, and twice he's been over 1,000 yards. So the thing is, he's a good, I don't know, he's a good second or third. Probably, in my opinion, if you're going to go wide receiver, you're probably going to do better than him as far as your second wide receiver. If you can pick up two, definitely, the main wide receiver on a team, that's the way to go. But if you miss one of those, he's an option for you. Now, one to look at, and which has been very controversial, is Tyreek Hill. Last season, he was 23rd wide receiver. Just didn't have a good season at all. I mean, he lost his quarterback for a lot of the season. And then when he did come back, when Tua came back, they did not throw the ball down the field. Tua was getting rid of that ball as fast as he could and at a short distance. So it was really a waste of Hill. And Hill had his issues off the field, on the field. So he's been very controversial. But right now, before I say that, the previous season in 2023, he was second overall with 23.5 points to CeeDee Lamb. I mean, they were the top two. So Tyreek Hill went from second all the way to 23rd. Now he's 30, 31, but he just showed that he's still fast. I think it's incumbent on Miami to get him back into the flow of things. And right now, he's going off the board as wide receiver 12, 28th pick. So he's going early in the third round. This is the person who is being picked in the top 5 or so in 2023. He was going off the board real early. He was like, Chase, Jefferson, or Lamb of this season. That's where Hill was the previous season, him and CeeDee Lamb. Who are you going to pick first? So I really think if you're shooting for a high water mark, Tyreek Hill could be a steal if you get him early. If you end up, especially if you're somebody who's picking late in the second round, you might want to jump the gun and grab Tyreek Hill, and you might get a bargain out of that. One more wide receiver is Brian Thomas. He's going 7th wide receiver. He's going 14th. So he's going early in the second round. It's very possible that he'll be better than that. He finished 4th in the NFL last season as far as wide receivers go. And just the same way I think Pickens helped CeeDee Lamb out, I really think that Brian Thomas is going to be helped by Hunter, not hurt by Hunter. The other thing is that a lot of the yardage that Brian Thomas got was through Mac Jones, not through Trevor Lawrence. And the big difference between the two is accuracy. Mac Jones, just his accuracy is pitiful. So there were times when Brian Thomas was wide open and just couldn't get him the ball. The second thing with Brian Thomas, as I mentioned when I was talking about the rookies in a previous podcast, is that the first half of the season, he was averaging 6.5 receptions a game. The second half, he was averaging close to 12. So the difference was amazing. So obviously his yardage went way up. So now if they start 2025 season and they're getting to the ball to Brian Thomas right away, I see no reason he won't do much better. He led the rookies, and he was 3rd in the NFL in yardage on only 87 receptions. And like I said, they didn't even start throwing him the ball till the last half of the season. So if they start right away, I definitely predict him to go well over 100 receptions and, possibly something like 1,500 yards. So that's a person who will definitely be a first-round pick, even though you could maybe pick him up early in the second round. But he's definitely somebody to watch. And there's a little hesitancy on some people, so you might be able to get him. But he's not going to drop out of the second round. But he's another one that's a good pick. All right. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, second overall last season. He's going second in 2025. The previous season, he was fifth. So he's been very consistent. He's definitely a person you want to grab just out of the fact that he's proven he's quarterback. It doesn't matter the quarterback. He's going to get his passes. CeeDee Lamb is another one who should really do much better than he did last season. Last season, he was ninth overall, but again, he really had nobody helping him. And Prescott wasn't even around for half the season, so he's a good one. Now, a lot of people are wondering about is, who am I thinking about? My mind went blank. Cooper Kupp. Sorry, Cooper Kupp. What's he going to do? In 2023, in 12 games, he finished 24th overall. This season, you can get him for a steal. Is he washed up, as a lot of people are saying? Right now, he's going 41 wide receiver. He's going as 86th pick overall. Well, I mean, wow, you can get him in the 7th round, 8th round. Is it worth it to maybe pick him up and see how well he does? I don't know. That's one that's interesting because he was so good. Is he really that washed up already? I mean, you got Davante Adams, who a lot of people were picking much earlier, but I don't think he's washed up. So we'll see. I do think he's maybe a steal, but I don't think he's as much a steal as I'll stick with Tyreek Hill as the guy I think will have a good season. It's a big debate on that guy, but and putting character aside and so forth, seems determined to have a better season this coming year, and he's saying the right things. He's a team player now and so forth. So we'll just see. But that's your wide receivers. Looking at the running backs, well, a lot of people are fading Saquon Barkley because last season he finished with 322 fantasy points. It was an incredible year he had. And they're fading him because can he do it 2 years in a row? And when you look at the stats, it's extremely difficult to have seasons like that twice in a row. So right now, Saquon Barkley's still going first. In fact, he's in the top 3 picks generally. It's often going Chase, Jefferson, and Barkley, and occasionally it could be Lamb jumps in there ahead of Jefferson or something. So, but really, he's going in the top 3 picks. So, despite the worry, people still feel strong that he'll have a good season, and he should. You just can't go with the injury bug. You could do that with anybody. Same with Derrick Henry, who finished second. He wasn't that far in yardage. I mean, in points behind. He was only 5 fantasy points behind Barkley. He didn't have that many yards less than Barkley, and he had more touchdowns. So he was right there. Of course, he doesn't get the receptions, but still, despite that, he's getting touchdowns. So he doesn't get so many receptions, but last season he had 16 touchdowns. I mean, that's just a massive amount, makes up for some of the receptions. So those are a couple of your top ones that were top in 2024. Not so high in 2023 though. That's kind of interesting. Obviously, Barkley was 9th in 2023. Had a good season, but he was only 9th. Derrick Henry was 16th, and then they had a much better season this past season. Achane, Devon, for Miami, finished 5th and 9th in 2024. And there's a lot of talk about him. He's going 7th overall, running back 7th, and he's going 15th position overall. So he's early in the second round. Most of these guys, you're going to have to get the top 9 players. You're going to have to take them in the second round, or you're not going to get these running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs is another one. Very consistent. 8th in 2023, 3rd this year. And if he continues to take a little bit more of a dominating role over Montgomery, he could go higher. So he's one to watch. He's going 3rd running back overall and 4th pick overall. So he's right up there. You've got Barkley, Robinson, and Gibbs. Just people are trying to pick which one of those 3 they want to grab for various reasons. Because you can look at every one of them and see a possibility. The one that I've been watching a lot and McCaffrey is Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, last season was not a good season. And so people are wondering, is he done? He's over 30. And is he done or not? I mean, he finished way down because he didn't play but 4 games and, not even full games all the time. But in 2023, he was just the same as Chase. He had a huge lead over Kyren Williams as far as points per game, over 3 points more a game than the second best running back. And those two had the only ones over 20 back then. So they had incredible seasons. Is Christian McCaffrey going to be back to the way he was in 2023? I'm betting he is. And right now, though, he's going as the 6th running back, 11th pick overall. So he's going at the end of the first round. If you're at the end of the first round, you might think about him because he could definitely be the number 1 running back in 2024. I mean, they're going to run him and they're going to throw passes to him. He's one of the best receivers out of the backfield as well. So, if you're toward the end of the round, you might want to grab him. And I really think it's a possibility that he could definitely be as good as Barkley, Robinson, or Gibbs. So right now it's the last 3 picks, just the same as Barkley, Robinson, or Gibbs are going early as the first 3 running backs. Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, and Ashton Jeanty are going as the last 3 picks of the first round. So it's a debate between people. Which one do you want to go with? Right now, as much as I'd love to go with Jeanty, I would take McCaffrey, take my chances on him. And then I'd go with Jeanty and then Henry. If we're saying that Barkley could slip a little bit, I don't know why Henry might not slip a little bit either. He's older, though I say he's older, but I don't say he's less determined to have another good season, and he prepares himself so well. And he's been very consistent, but I think I might want to pick Jeanty. And obviously McCaffrey's had his issues too. But he's just so all around good in receiving, rushing, and they give him the ball so much. So he's one I'd pick. Now, when you're looking at him in 2024, Travis Etienne was 39th overall, only averaged 6 points of fantasy points a game. But in 2023, he was 7th overall, averaged 16.61, so over 16 and a half points a game. So he's one you could ask that question. Is he going to be come back and have a year like he did? New coach, new system, a running game that is schemed better for Travis Etienne than what they tried to put him through the last couple of years, especially 2024. Those are the positive points. On the other hand, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't touch any of them really, any running back right now from the Jaguars, because there's no telling which one of them is going to start. Travis Etienne right now is the 38th running back overall. He's going 88th right now. Tank Bigsby is a big drop, and there's a lot of talk that Tank Bigsby will start the season as the number one running back. So we'll see through training camps, kind of try to gauge that, and maybe through preseason games. But right now, it'd be difficult. The only good thing is, like I said, Etienne's going 88th pick overall. So you're talking about the 7th, 8th round, something like that. And then Bigsby's going 130th. So you could get him in the, 12th round, something. And then Baishu Tutin, the rookie, is right behind Bigsby at 134. So you could take a gamble if you have depending on your league, if you have enough bench space, you might want to take Bigsby and Tutin. I don't see Tutin at all being the guy that starts the season, but it's very possible some point through the season he comes up and he is the starting running back. So you'd have him, if you could hold him on your bench and wait it out, it's a very good possibility that he could be the guy. But who knows what happens if Travis Etienne comes back with a good season. So like I said, it's hard to tell. I truly don't think it's Bigsby, even though he performed better last season. He's more fumble prone. He doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield well. Etienne can do that. Etienne really doesn't fumble, though he had that devastating fumble against Miami, but that was the only fumble he had the whole season. But he didn't look good at all. I swear, you lay a hand on him and he fell down. So I don't know if it was the system. And in a lot of it, he wasn't getting out of the backfield a lot before he was already being hit. So we'll see the new scheme if it really helps him out and he produces better. But when you're looking for upside and not just somebody that's going to meet their basic line, that's why I like McCaffrey. If you want to really shoot for the moon, it's a possibility that he does quite well. One other one would be Kyren Williams, who finished second in 2023, finished sixth last season, but right now is RB10, and he's going early in the third round. He's somebody that could really spike and be quite good. Devon for Miami's one, but people were already catching on to him. So you basically have to get him at the beginning of the second round. I think people are catching on that he could have a very good season this year. So we'll see. 2023, he was fifth. 2024, he was ninth. So he's one. And my favorite, last one I'll talk about, sneaky guy. People keep writing him off every year. And he does well. 2023, he was 13th. And 2024, he was 10th. And I'm talking about James Conner for Arizona. Right now, you can get him. He's a 20th overall running back. He's the starting running back, and he's 20th. But he's going 49th, position 49th. So that's the beginning of the fifth round. If you go wide receiver, something like that, or if you want to pick up a wide receiver, tight end, or wide receiver quarterback or something, and you don't pick up a running back early, grab James Conner. He performs every year, and there's always talk about him being injured and so forth, but he played 16 games last year, and he still did that well. And he finished 13th in 2023, and he only played 13 games. He still finished 13th overall. So if he'd have played 3 more games, he would have definitely been in the top 10 again. So he's a sneaky one if you're looking for somebody to pick up early. All right, so those are the running backs. Let's wrap this up quickly here. Let's look at tight ends, and then we'll we'll call it a show. All right. Looking at tight ends, well, obviously there's been a definite change in tight ends because Travis Kelce in 2023 was the number one tight end. But then this past season, he was 10th. And there's been a lot said about how he's dropped, but he was still 10th. So he's not that bad. The only thing is he's still going 5th, 69th overall, though. So, you can get him in the 6th round. So if he has his last, maybe a final hurrah, there's a lot of talk about how well he's been working on himself, so that's a possibility. Obviously this season, because of last season, Brock Bowers is the number one overall tight end going off the board. He's going at the beginning of the second round. He's 16th pick overall, so early in the second round, despite the fact that actually George Kittle had more fantasy points than he did. But it was the receptions and so forth Brock Bowers had. And he very well could repeat. Trey McBride was second. He's going second off the board, but a full 11 spots later. He's going early in the third round. And then George Kittle's going early in the fourth round. So really looks like those are your top three. Well, I'm not sure I'd want to pick up Brock Bowers that early. I think he'll get his receptions, but I think Genty coming out of the backfield is going to catch a lot of passes that last season went to Bowers because their running backs for the Raiders were terrible last season. So they didn't have that option as open to them in the same degree that they're going to have this year. So I see some of those going away from Bowers. That's just an opinion. The only negative about that, if you want to flip it and you want to say you want to go with him, is that Bowers, with 112 receptions, only had 5 touchdowns. So it's a possibility he has more touchdowns. But then maybe not again. Maybe it's Genty again who steals the touchdowns or gets the most touchdowns. So we'll see. But I think if I'm going to go with one of these top guys, I'm either going McBride, but really I think I'm going with Kittle. If I'm going to pick one of the top three. George Kittle in 2023 finished 6th as tight ends go. And 2024, he was first as far as points per game. But when you're looking at it, some of those ahead of him were Sam Laporta for Detroit, Evan Ingram when he was with Jacksonville. The only reason Evan Ingram was that high was the wide receivers. Kirk especially got hurt early, and they threw everything to Evan Ingram in 2023. That's why he had so many receptions. He had a ton of receptions, but his yardage didn't really show it in touchdowns. But he made a lot of points just off the fact that he had so many receptions. He would have never had that many if it wasn't for the fact that the wide receivers were hurt. This last season, he was way down at 36th. So I think that was a fluke that he was that high. Evan Ingram right now is going 10th overall tight end, but 87th pick overall. That's, the eighth round or so. I don't know that I'd want to go any better than that for him. I might pick somebody else. If I'm not picking one of these early ones, I might wait. For example, Jake Ferguson or Dalton Kincaid is an interesting one. And the last one I want to mention, because I think he's a possible person you might see do quite well this next season, and that's TJ Hawkinson. Last season, he was 33rd, but he only played 9 games. And a different quarterback. So this season, you got McCarthy coming in. First season, I think they want to help him out. I think they want to give him the option of being able to dump that pass off. In 2023, TJ Hawkinson was second, only behind Travis, just barely behind Travis Kelce as far as tight ends go. I think he could repeat that more likely than where he finished last season. So he's somebody I'm looking at. And the reason I say that is right now he's sixth tight end off the list. He's going in 66th overall. You're talking about the sixth round, somewhere in the sixth round, fifth, sixth round. So if you don't get Bowers, McBride, or Kittle, he's somebody I might think about. Right now, they've got Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce ahead of him. I think that Hawkinson has a good chance to be one of the top 2 or 3 tight ends this next season. So he's the guy I will be watching as they drop down the list. If he drops a little bit, if I don't get one of the top 3, and if I'm going to pick one of the top 3, I'm going Kittle, McBride, Bowers. Right now, I'm struggling between McBride and Kittle because McBride finished third, with 111 receptions. He was just behind Bowers, but he only had 2 touchdowns. He's had in his career 1, 3, and 2 touchdowns. I just can't believe they can't figure out a way to get him the 5 touchdowns, say, that Bowers had. If he does, he could definitely be the guy. So I'm struggling between Kittle and McBride. I like Kittle because their wide receiver situation right now is in turmoil. So I see Kittle, which is another reason I like Christian McCaffrey, is who are they going to throw the ball to early in the year? Right now, I think it's going to be Kittle and McCaffrey. So I kind of like those 2 guys. So that's my take on some of the draft picks in different categories that I'm looking at, especially when I'm trying to pick players that are going to spike to give me a chance to win my league. So that's what I'll be looking at. All right. Well, that's a wrap for that. Next up, I'm going to look at the Green Bay Packers as we continue through every team in the NFL. In the NFC North, Green Bay Packers. As we get closer and closer to actual real football, that's going to be exciting. Appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. If you got any comments, you can get a hold of me on Facebook, X, or Instagram. Email me all these at justthestatsnfl. For emails, justthestatsnfl@gmail.com. And I appreciate you listening. And so that is a wrap for this episode. So until next time, I'm out.